W.dean is back with us on the line. The former lawyer in the Nixon White House, who I remember so well from the early 70s, 73 I think it was, and the author of a number of books, including one of my favorites, Conservatives Without Conscience, excuse me. John Dean, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Tom.
And I should say, former White House Counsel in the Nixon Administration, Broken Government, another one of your books, How Republican Rule Destroyed the Legislative, Executive, and Judicial Branches. Boy, was that prescient, or commenting on the state of things. You recently made some comments about Scott Walker, and going back 6 months, a year ago, I've been saying on this program for probably at least a year that Scott Walker is probably going to be either the Republican presidential or vice presidential nominee simply because he's the Koch brothers guy. He's the one who's done their work. He's the one that they're giving their money to, and they're going to commit $1 billion, almost $1 billion to this next election. So I think it's, he's somebody worth taking very seriously, and apparently you are. Your thoughts on Scott Walker?
Well, first of all, I've alluded to him as being highly Nixonian. Mm-hmm. And that started back about the time of his recall when I first looked at him. And he's one of these remarkably opportunist politicians. He's not in it because he wants to do public service. He's in it because he wants to do what he can for Scott Walker. He's really not done very well at anything he's done in life. I don't think he's as smart as Nixon. He certainly isn't ready for prime time, which has been kind of interesting to see him thrust to the front of the Republican pack in the polls. This whole theory that governors can actually, with no Washington experience, can run the country is kind of a scary idea. It's scary enough to put a freshman senator in there and let him learn on the job. Fortunately, he's a bright one. But, there's something to actually understanding the government before you try to go in and run it at a national level. And
Obama was a constitutional scholar and law professor. I mean, he at least had some knowledge of the stuff. Scott Walker dropped out of college and has. That's
right. He didn't finish. I always found it funny on his resume that he's got himself at Marquette for 4 years, but he never gets a degree there. Mm. I don't know if he did spend 4 years there.
Yeah.
If that's correct or not.
It's very interesting.
The people I know in Wisconsin who feed me some pretty regular information about him are the reasons I found him Nixonian. He's slick. He's disingenuous. He panders to whatever audience. Maybe these are traits of all politicians I'm describing, but I don't think so. Mm. I think Bernie Sanders, for example, is there because he's a public servant and feels strongly about the issues and knows his issues.
Yep.
Very different cut of public figure. But Walker troubles me because I don't think he's ready. He's the least known, and that's one of the reasons he is popular right now, because no one knows much about him.
Yeah.
He's not saying much. He's trying to avoid saying anything, which is probably smart because he doesn't have a lot to say. Mm. But we'll see. I don't know if the money from his sources can do what he thinks they can do, and if it's really that committed to him.
Well, they certainly did it in Wisconsin. I mean, they brought $60 million into that state,
yes,
as I recall, and helped him get through a recall and helped him get reelected. I've been the parallel that I've been drawing. And, of course, I was not in the Nixon White House like you were, but the parallel that I've been drawing is to Reagan. I remember in the 1980 election when George Herbert Walker Bush was challenging Ronald Reagan in the primary. And people like myself, progressives in America were thinking, boy, would it be great if Reagan won the primary, because he would be fairly easy for Jimmy Carter to take down. I mean, everybody knows Ronald Reagan is a whack job. I mean, he's a Hollywood actor who knows how to recite his lines very well, and he can do aw shucks just great. I'm just an average guy, but he's the shill for these private interests, these very large and wealthy private interests. And look what he did to California. And we just thought, hey, this will be a no-brainer. And of course, he became president, and 34 years later, 35 years later, 35 years of Reaganomics has just eviscerated the middle class. It seems to me that Scott Walker could be that Reagan kind of figure that everybody underestimates and then gets into power and just breaks things. Your thoughts?
It's possible. Anything's possible. It's not a bad analogy. I don't think he has the. Reagan was much more capable of being manipulated by people. He wanted to be president very badly, and he would pay the price. And he had people around him who were very clever in Mies and Nossinger and people like that. I don't see anybody in the Walker camp that understands the big picture that well. They've got some big money, but that big money is very fickle and will move wherever it can get its best return on its investment.
Right.
And all he has to do is fall flat on his face once or twice, and they'll be gone. Whereas the Reagan people, Reagan really could have made a threat a couple times that he didn't, and then finally got the nomination.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to, in the time we have left, 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, talk about this typology, this authoritarian personality information that you brought forward in your book. You were citing social psychologist Robert Aldemeyer, and the idea of an authoritarian personality. You say that Scott Walker is a social dominator. What is a social dominator? What's an authoritarian personality?
This science really developed in the aftermath of World War II, and started during World War II with the rise of Hitler and the nomination of a clearly authoritarian dictator that was as mean-spirited as he was. And we hadn't done much. There hadn't been much science on it, and there clearly are authoritarian personalities, people who want to lead. In other words, you put them in a pack of people, they're the ones that will jump out in front and say, "Follow me." There are also people who are called authoritarian personalities who want to follow. They want somebody to lead them. They may eventually want to jump out of the pack and be the leader themselves, but they're willing to sit back and be led. And Altmaier, who spent his entire adult life from grad school through his many years as tenured professor, has done a lot of science on this and a lot of study on it. And he says that he's considered about 25% of the population have authoritarian personalities. In other words, either they want to be the leader, or they want to be led and told how to think and what have you. Now, the reason is because it became very clear to me from my experience I didn't deal directly with the Nixon people, that whole being around those people, I just saw them. They click their heels, salute, and say, "Let's get it done," and however the leader says. So I've experienced it.
Yeah.
And
we'll continue with this conversation. John W.Dean is with us. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
John Dean's most recent book, Broken Government, How Republican Rule Destroyed the Legislative, Executive, and Judicial Branches. We'll be back with more of our conversation with John Dean. So, welcome back. John Dean, you talk about Scott Walker as a classic authoritarian, and authoritarians as being people who either want to take authority or will follow authority. How to, and that, in the Nixon era, Nixon seemed to be an authoritarian and surrounded himself with authoritarians. What about some very strong presidents? For FDR, for example, was he an authoritarian?
No, he really wasn't. There are a whole slew of personality traits that these authoritarian personalities have. Being a strong leader and an authoritarian are not synonymous. You have many leaders. In fact, the George McGregor Burns or James McGregor Burns study on leadership that where he looked at to see which presidents are the great presidents and what kind of leadership is the great leadership is transformational as opposed to transactional leaders. Authoritarians are transactional leaders. In other words, they'll horse trade to get anything they want. A transformative leader, an FDR-type leader, is somebody who literally brings people in with him because they want to participate, because their ideas are part of the process. They are involved in the process, and this type of leadership is not just a simple, win-win, but or transaction, but rather a sort of a movement that starts. And these have been our great presidents, FDR being one, Lincoln obviously being another. So, strong leaders shouldn't be confused with authoritarian leaders. Authoritarian leaders it's their way or the highway. You mentioned my last book being Broken Government. Really, that's not quite right. The last book, which was out in last July, and the paperback will be out this coming June, was called The Nixon Defense. And what I did is I transcribed all Nixon's Watergate conversations, and talk about a good insight into how authoritarian leaders work. I really saw it in spades. I have sitting across from my desk here right now 21 volumes of transcripts, about 8,000 pages, about 4 million words, from which I drew narrative and dialogue. And wow. It was really a chance to see just his Watergate conversations, which nobody had ever done. About half of them were nobody had ever transcribed before, and then I corrected the transcripts of a lot of the other ones. The book was spent about 3 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, but that list is a very unusual list of late. It has books that. In fact, I noticed last week's list, there wasn't even a single new book on it. Books that have been on there for weeks, months, years, like Unbroken, Wild, books like that are just seem to be dominating and controlling the list. But anyway, I'm very happy with the way that my new book is.
That's great. I'm very sorry we missed that. I would have loved to have gotten you on to promote the book at the time. And please let us know if you have other books coming out in the future. We will continue this conversation in just a moment. We're talking with John W. Dean. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die.
I am happy.
Welcome back. We're talking with John W.Dean, whose most recent book is The Nixon Defense, soon to be out in paperback. And other books include Broken Government, How Republican Rule Destroyed the Legislative, Executive, and Judicial Branches, and Conservatives Without Conscience. And John Dean, we were talking about Scott Walker. You said he has never stopped running. This is the behavior writ large of a dominator. What is a dominator in the context of an authoritarian personality?
Well, these are the people who want to jump out in front and lead, and will do anything to get in that position. There's a unique type which I really don't know that Walker is or is not. I've talked to Altmaier about this to some degree, but I'm actually still gathering information on Walker. There's something called, I don't know if they're social dominators, they're called double highs in the vernacular, and they're people who in the testing not only they really break all the charts, and they are few and far between. I don't think Scott Walker is necessarily a double high. They're a pretty frightening type of authoritarian personality. But yet, the people that will typically follow a Walker are authoritarian types, and we'll see how there's something going on in Wisconsin that I don't get.
Yeah.
I have too many friends, I guess, in Madison and not in the rest of the state,
right.
Because the people in Madison don't get it either.
Well, if you watch a lot of Fox News, which unfortunately I have to do for my how I make my living, it seems like the underlying message of almost every segment is, be afraid of this. No, be afraid of this. Is that a continuous appeal on the part of Fox News and other right-wing shows to the authoritarian followers in their audience?
You nailed it. It's exactly what they...
And they're introducing those authoritarian followers?
They are at base people who are frightened.
Yeah.
And this is very true of many conservatives. They are basically people who are frightened, and they want to be told how to think and what to do. They don't want to do this for themselves. And this is why this is about at least half of the conservative movement.
Now, you write also about how Scott Walker opposes equality, and that's a symptom of an authoritarian policy. He said none is more glaring than his intolerance of gays and lesbians, and undercutting public employee unions to increase his approach to morality. You said he is to be amoral, of course, is to be insensitive to moral matters. Your thoughts on these dimensions of his authoritarian personality?
Right. As I say, it's always a little tricky when you do it when you don't actually have somebody answering questions, and you're trying to gather the information from newspaper clippings. What happened along the way during the recall? Somebody who was connected with the opposition to his effort to succeed in the recall sent me a remarkable book of the opposition research. I'd really never seen a contemporary opposition research, and it was about 5 inches thick when I printed it out. And I gleaned from that to do that piece what appear to be pretty conspicuous personality traits. The authoritarian highs, negatives, are really pretty unattractive traits. And as I say, I found most of them. He's a secretive type person as well, and this is very, very typical with authoritarians. They're highly secretive. As I say, sadly, the conservative movement, which wasn't always dominated by authoritarians, is today.
I don't think of Barry Goldwater as an authoritarian. Certainly, Everett Dirksen.
I just pulled open the Conservatives Without Conscience. They're typically men with dominating personalities. They oppose equality, and they certainly are desirous of power and amoral. Those are the keys that Altmaier tells me to testing. You have to have to ring the bell to make sure you're in that category. Then there are certainly others that fall in very typical personalities of this nature. and they're intimidating and bullying types. They're faintly hedonistic. They're vengeful. They're rather pitiless. They're exploitive. They're manipulative. They're dishonest. They're willing to cheat to win. They're highly prejudiced. They're racist, sexist, homophobic. They're mean-spirited. They're militant. They're nationalistic. They take advantage of suckers. They're willing to create a false image of themselves to sell themselves. They may or may not be religious, and they're politically and economically almost always conservative. That's sort of the rundown of what comes out of not opinions, but rather testing of people who have these personalities.
Remarkable stuff. John W.Dean, his most recent book, The Nixon Defense, soon to be out in paperback. Other books, Broken Government, How Republican Rule Destroyed the Legislative, Executive, and Judicial Branch, and Conservatives Without Conscience. John Dean, it is always an honor to talk with you, sir. Thank you for dropping by today.
Thank you, Tom.